Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us again on another episode of Leadership for the Now. My name is Florin, and I'm so delighted to be with you today. And today, I'm joined by a wonderful friend and a wonderful guest, James Newell. Welcome, James.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure to be with you and to share a bit of my background, a little bit of what we're doing here in Germany. Really excited.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm excited for our interview. And I know this shows that is live, but James and I had a challenge schedule. And so we had to record this before this goes live. And so it's stream live, but we had to pre-record it. So we know we are upfront. So James, for someone that doesn't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Okay. Well, I'm actually an American living in Germany since 1995. I came here with the U.S. military, married to a wonderful German girl, have 5 children from 27 to 6 years old, which means
Wow.
basically by the time she gets old enough to drive a car, I'll be in retirement, basically with no hair either. You
Yeah.
know, So I came in with the military, spent a few years in the military, stayed here, got out, and been in the business development, supporting businesses create teams, create business plans. A few of the startups that started in Germany is my background. I was helping them get the processes, the whole entrepreneur spirit of what it means to build a team from the ground up. I've been doing that for the last about 20 years. Um, I'm originally from New York. I lost my accent years ago.
Yeah.
People actually asked me for my passport or my birth certificate because they don't actually believe I'm an American because I
Oh,
speak more
great.
like a foreigner. So, but some of you who might, some of the American listeners might be old enough to remember Hogan's Heroes. It was a
Oh,
comedy show of Second World War, Stalag 13, or Colonel Klink with his round piece and Sergeant Schultz. Well, I live 5 clicks away from Hammelburg, which is the town they used to go in through the tunnels, and
oh,
6 clicks away from actual Stalag 13. So I'm
oh,
in
wow.
the middle. A lot of people, I'm by Frankfurt. Bamberg Schweinfurt doesn't say much to people, but everybody knows Hogan's Heroes, who's over 35, I think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, great.
So
Thank you for sharing that. And you obviously have experience from in the military, from living and working in the U.S. and now in Europe and Germany. So, but I understand that your kind of specialty is to help companies and smaller media companies with kind of getting their heads around kind of lean and Six Sigma and maybe even the agile way of working. Can you tell us a little bit about that and how you got interested in these things?
yeah, basically, great question. I was exposed to lean and the whole lean optimization, including Six Sigma. I was back in the military.
Okay.
I didn't know it was called lean back then. The processes within all levels of training were all very standardized, efficient. And if anybody served in the military, it's all about delivering the customer, which is in this case, it's drill sergeant, what he
Mhm.
wants to the quality he wants it within the time that he expects.
Right.
And that's the basic understanding of lean as well as these to optimize your processes. So coming from the military, we learn how to communicate in a very lean manner, which is, for example, situation report, or
Hmm.
AARs, which are after action reports. They're all standardized and trained very well. You learn how to communicate very effectively. The whole tools of Six Sigma and lean tools became useful as I stepped into, I became aware of using them in tools when I stepped into the industrial side of things in the production areas, the different positions of industrial positions I've held. Um, I went through all the formal training, Six Sigma, Lean Six Sigma, but just because someone has a badge does not mean they understand how to apply and how to share with others, which is one of the key goals of Lean.
Right.
Sustainable improvement is only possible if you can develop and deploy multipliers. I'll say that again for a lot of
Mm.
my Lean people.
Yeah, there was a lot in that one. Say it again, please.
Sustainable improvement is only possible if you can develop and deploy multipliers.
Wow.
And
Feels
multipliers
almost
those
like
lean thoughts.
and leaders, right, to carry the message and the way of working, in the organization.
Leaders are repeaters. Lean leaders are lean repeaters.
Right. Nice. So okay, you work with organizations at different levels and from different industries. Tell us, what do you see as being the biggest challenges that organizations face in today's context, and even the future of work?
Well, some of the biggest challenges regarding lean adoption can you clarify your question to
Yeah. So first of all, let's maybe first of all step back a moment and then talk about more general challenges you see in the context, because I'm based in Sweden and Denmark. This is kind of where my work is. You're in Germany, and maybe you talk to different people and different companies, and we want to hear your perspective about more general challenges that organizations face today, right? And then we're going to go into lean as well, but more generally first, like what do you see with the people that you're working with?
At the moment, a lot of people I'm working with, a lot of the companies I'm working with have a challenge coming through the COVID situation, coming through the whole, developing leaders or having leaders that are being confronted with, people being home and no longer, for the office environment, not sitting, they're used to managing or leading in a different way. And now they're all home. Now the employees are home. So the challenge is a lot of the departments I was working with was how do I know that I'm still efficient and effective if my people are at home? Can I trust them to do the work that they're supposed to be doing if they're in the office or they're home? And to speak about that is very difficult, because as soon as you start questioning the questioning the honorability of someone who's working at home because he has to, because he's now been forced to go home because of COVID. Questioning that in Germany is a big no-no as well, because you have you're not allowed to question your employees, to measure your employees' work in the office environment isn't really known at all. People, we optimize and measure the processes and the production, but the office workers who are working in different functions, the biggest challenge I saw for this whole COVID was how to keep my team, who I no longer contact with, no face-to-face, in the office environment, how to make sure they're effective, efficient, and keep them engaged to be part of a team when we're all virtual. That's one of the biggest challenges.
Oh, absolutely. I can see that.
And a lot of the leaders have a challenge in leading a team in the current generational gap, I'd call that. I mean, we have the baby boomers who learned to lead in a different mentality. Those baby boomers had children, Gen X. So it's a whole different mentality of leadership based upon the environment that the parents or the generation grew up in, that forms certain ways of managing people. I say managing, not leading. There's a difference.
Sure. Yeah.
And these generational gaps, and now we're being confronted with post-COVID, Gen Z, Gen Y, the different mentalities. I would call it a smorgasbord, or is also a word for that region, smorgasbord of buffet of options to choose from. We have employees coming out of college looking to be pitched to versus them pitching themselves to get a job.
Sure.
They're coming out of the university saying, well, I have something to offer, but have no experience. And that's rubbing up on the managers, Gen X managers, who'd say, hey, get some dirt, roll up your sleeves first before you come with your degree, because there's guys in the office that have been doing it for 30 years, they can run circles on you. So that generational gap of how to speak and understand and how to utilize these gifts or these talents that the Gen Y, Gen Z are bringing to the table, there's a huge generational gap.
Wow, that's so good.
The second biggest challenge.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. And I definitely see the same here in Scandinavia, and it's probably a worldwide worldwide challenge. Managing people remotely, trusting employees to do the things that you expect them to do, and also understanding the new generation. And um, there is another group there. One of the people that I follow calls that never apply in the first place. So these people
Yeah.
that never apply at all to a job because they they see people from their generation doing things online, like TikTok videos or YouTube, and kind of making a living out of that, and they wondering, why should I even get a job, right? So what about that group, which we don't even see coming into the workforce? So definitely there are challenges, and we will have work for the future. I don't doubt that. So
Yeah. We definitely, the leaders of tomorrow need to be equipped today to handle these challenges. And those leaders of tomorrow are these Gen Zs and Gen Ys, Gen Y and Gen Z. They are the leaders of tomorrow. These are the 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds. And they have to be the leaders of today. Need to be the leadership of tomorrow needs to be prepared by the leaders today. We
absolutely,
need to develop and prepare the leaders of tomorrow
absolutely,
to be the head of their own generation.
sure. And so, okay, so you work with helping organizations kind of get these processes in place. What would you say when you speak to organization, what would you say would be the biggest benefits of having a lean structure and lean organization?
They're the biggest benefits. I mean, to break it down, if you can implement a lean organization, if you can implement lean, we have to first define what lean is.
Please.
Lean is a solid balance between continuous improvement process and respect for people. That balance is important because if you focus too much on CIP, continuous improvement, and you implement with the people and on the people, not with the people, it's just about optimizing the processes, but by disrespecting their knowledge, disrespecting their workplace, disrespecting that they need to be developed to understand these tools you're using. If that disrespect is, there's no balance between CIP tools are great, but if you don't have the respect for the people of engaging them to understand why they need to use these tools and what benefits they have, you can never start a lean organization. It will never happen. It will never be sustainable. So based upon that foundation, if you can develop your people to either lead in a lean manner or to optimize and take ownership for their processes and be able to learn how to improve on their processes because they've been developed to do so, the benefits are huge. Retention is high. You have cost-effective growth. That means be growing. Perfect example in sales. Lean sales, which I love to do. I love selling lean in a lean manner, is by referrals. There's nothing better than a word of mouth. There's nothing better than referrals. And the best business is a referral business. You don't have to talk about discount. You don't have to talk about anything else. It's the easiest business. So a lean seller, a lean person who sells, he sells through referrals. And to develop, before I lose track, because I love selling.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's if you can get them to develop their people, develop their leaders, become more and more lean, optimize their process, take ownership, which is one of the key things about lean, and to create a multiplying environment. Like I said earlier, people who are bought into lean principles, lean tools, they sell those tools to others better.
Right. Yeah.
If I'm a convinced certain type of car person who drives a certain type of car, I'm going to be looking for those cars all the time on the road. I'm going to be looking for differences. I'm looking for people. I'm going to comment and share how happy I am with that car. Same thing with lean tools, lean leadership. You have a lean leader who focuses on serving his people and developing his people. They're going to talk to their friends and say, hey, you're unhappy at your work. Maybe I have a position for you. It means you have a very cheap way of engaging your people to bring referrals into the business, which means you have solid, consistent growth in a very cost-effective manner. Those are just a couple: high retention rates, cost-effective growth, longevity, and auf der anderen Side, sorry, it's German. An organization that is lean will retain their customers and the revenue streams that are with them. If you're lean, you'll retain your customers. You'll be more resistant to outside competitors, because the more lean a company is with the customer, the more happy the customer is. He's getting what he wants when he wants it to the right price.
Right.
Competitors can't do anything with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, that's so good. That's so insightful. So when you see organizations kind of struggling with create such an organization, right, such a lean structure and implement lean leadership, what would be some of the challenges that they actually struggle with to make it happen?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite questions. A lot of my, I would call them the leaders or the HR people who bring me in and, hey, can you help us, or whatever. Often I get these questions from when I do a lunch and learn, or I do an intro of what I'm doing. I come to the company and say, hey, let's do half an hour on a short impulse speaking event. I think it's called. I translate sometimes German and English. And the largest challenges for adaptation of a lean mindset is senior management buy-in, willingness to change, basically from the senior management, and the acting on the transparency that will come about when we start digging with the lean tools and finding root causes of the problems. Because everybody loves change. So everybody loves something new, but hates the change. No?
Or love change if there is their idea.
Right, exactly. That's it. And the senior, I say often I do a lot of go gembas with the senior management. We walk the line or walk the office, walk the business, and I say, and they would complain maybe about their culture, or they complain about the challenges they're having. Their people are. I'm like, well, put it this way: your culture is a mirror effect of how your management team looks like and interacts with each other. So if you've got a kindergarten for a management team, you're going to have a kindergarten for a culture.
Wow, that's
so often I go through with and do a go gemba, which is go to location where the value is being added and being created, show respect, which means thank them for their work, and look together, shoulder to shoulder, for optimization. Go gemba, true go gemba, which is often only half of it. Go at location, show them what they're doing wrong. That's not go gemba. That's called an audit. And to get them engaged and to find ways to serve their employees, that changes the environment overnight. And sometimes I'd walk with a leader, just a line, and say, hey, plant manager, we're just going to walk tomorrow morning, first half an hour, you're going to go from the back of the line to the front, whatever it is. We're just going to walk through a department and see what happens. All we're going to do is stage one. You're going to do nothing but walk with me. At the end, I ask them, how many people did you greet, or wanted to greet you? How many people did you see and look in the eyes? Answer is often, well, nobody, or they all scatter.
Yeah.
And I said, well, tomorrow let's meet some people. Let's meet some of the people that work for you, that bring your paycheck. And that go gemba is usually painful the first couple of weeks, and that changes the environment within 3 months. Little small go gemba, engaging leaders at location to find out what's going on.
Wow. I really believe that. I really believe that, because what I have found is that the leader actually sets the stage for the interaction between the people. Like whatever, how the leader treats an employee or the cleaning person, or someone that, maybe the lowest employee in the organization. That's how other leaders and the colleagues and the coworkers would treat the person. So absolutely what you're doing there, and what you said, that one of the biggest challenges is having the senior management to buy in and then show up, because that's also one of the challenges I see whenever I I do leadership training and programs, one of the biggest challenges to have the leadership to participate, because they'll be willing to invest in the training, but they say, well, can you do this with my team? Because I'm busy, right? So, well, what kind of message do you send to your team if you're not participating?
It's the same thing. Your culture mirrors your management.
Yeah.
So if the management isn't engaged in self-development, then you can't expect that from your employees either.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are three main principles for sustainable change. This will help put things in perspective. At least as far as what I teach and what I understand to be sustainable change, you have the three core principles. You have to create a need for change. It has to be created. Like you said earlier, you have to engage your people. You have to set the tone. Leaders have to create the need for change, either through role model position that I'm changing myself to get better as a leader, or we create need for change based upon getting KPIs and showing the team what the effects are, transparency, what the effects are on their work, on the KPIs, EBIT, doesn't matter. Just because they're not studied in economics doesn't mean they can't understand what EBIT means or how their work affects those numbers at the end of the day. It doesn't take more than a couple hours to repeat that meaning, and your people will get it after three or 4 weeks. Doesn't matter what level of education. If you can learn to speak their language, you're good. Create a need for change. Second, implement with the people and not on the people.
All right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You have to, for sustainable change, you have to implement with them. They have to be bought in. They're going to be the multipliers anyways. That's the idea. Implement with the people, not on the people. And third one, which I love, is all management has to be bought in. Has to be on board with developing a lean mindset themselves. And if those three things fall apart, if any of those three things aren't there, you'll never have sustainable change. That's the foundation for developing multipliers.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And so if someone is watching and they say, well, okay, James, Florin, I get this, this sounds a really great idea. I have heard it before, but I have not done anything. Like, what would be your 3 tips for them? Where should they start? If they're ready and say, okay, now I'm ready to implement lean, I'm ready to work on my organization.
Okay. Great question. First 3 things that come to my mind when I filter all of them. Engage your team to either understand your own vision. If you have a leader, like I said earlier, a leader without a vision is a follower. So if you're a leader and you have a vision, do your employees know that vision? Are they engaged in that vision? And if you don't have a vision, develop one together with them. So, have a vision. Where you want to go with the department? Where are you going yourself? And get the people to get on board. Because leadership is influence. The question is, who's running the rudder of that ship? And I love playing on words. Leadership. Where is the leader leading his ship? Leadership. The keel of a boat is what keeps it. That keel is the strategy of a leader has of implementing to his vision. The mast is what gives him the power because it's catching the wind. And his employees are on the boat. The boatsmen are the ones that are and making sure that everything running together, that can go in the right direction. If all that is in tune, all he needs to do on the rudder is influence the rudder to navigate towards that direction, which they've agreed upon as the vision. I love the sail, so that's
I can see that. Wow, but that's a really nice metaphor. Makes a lot of sense.
So, second tip: develop team KPIs based upon potential and not performance. Now we know KPIs, right? Key performance indicators.
Yep.
Everybody knows the definition. Well, I have a new definition I've been using for years. Key potential indicator.
All right. Okay. Give us a little bit more context there.
Right. So a key performance indicator is a result KPI. It's already happened.
Okay.
If you're measuring potential in a process, and you're in your process measuring the potential of the process, you're working on the processes behind that result. So you can either firefight with a KPI, looking back,
Mm-hmm.
or you can measure as you're on the go in that ship, wind, speed, whatever. You measure and you adjust because you have live KPIs that are team orientated, potential orientated, and applying those potentials of your team, for example, to what's needed at that moment. And you adjust on the way with your router, which means key performance indicators are great. We all need them. That's the bankers. Those are the ones on the top level. When it gets
Mm-hmm.
down into the actual nitty gritty of working in the process, we need to know the time. Perfect example. We need to know the process and measure the process live as we're going. Let them measure their own process. If they're the one doing the work and they know how to improve it, let them figure out how to measure their own process. And all you do is you collect up the result. You collect up the end, the results. Perfect example is Formula One. I think in Sweden, everybody knows what Formula One racing is, right? I mean, Formula One racing, you have the box and your pit stop.
Yeah.
Now, what are they measuring? He's measuring, who wins at the end. But what's very important to understand is that pit stop, they measure the time it takes to change out those wheels, for example,
Yeah.
from the time that it starts, that he stops, to the last bzzz, and the body drops and he's done. That's
Yeah.
a process KPI, a potential. If you get better at that process,
Yeah.
you have a better result of winning that race.
Absolutely.
Help the context?
Oh wow. Is there a third thing? Or
Establish a daily routine of getting in the trenches with them. In other words, go Gemba. Set up a daily routine to look at the processes, look at the performance KPI, at the potential KPIs, engage them, like a good captain on a ship does. He sets his router, he locks it in, he knows his navigation for the next 20 or 30 points is okay, wind's okay, he checks everything. Those are all potential indicators. Potentially
Right.
too high wind. He gets out, a good captain gets out from the bridge, walks down, thanks his people for doing their work, and goes back up when it time is to go back into a different course or change course because of whatever is happening.
Wow.
So get out of your office, go to location, show respect, look together for optimizations, and ask a simple question: what can I do for you today to make your work a bit easier? That one question will change your environment within a week.
Yeah. That's so good. And I can see those principles at play in some of my clients, and I could see how much others would benefit from just applying those. So thank you so much, James, for sharing all this with us. It's been really insightful. So if someone is interested to learn more about your work, right, is it LinkedIn a good place for them to get in touch with you?
Perfect. LinkedIn is good for me because that's where other podcasts, other things I've shared is on there as well. It's the best place to get it. I'm always looking at LinkedIn. That's the only message I have that beeps at me is LinkedIn.
All right, nice. Well, so now let's kind of in the closing, I would like to maybe get a little bit of more personal view from James. So tell me a bit about what are you working or towards, like, for the end of 2022 and maybe next year. Is there any projects, anything exciting you're working on?
Basically, I'm really encouraged to be able to serve the John Maxwell team as a team member in Germany, in the German-speaking Europe, to help share the proven wisdom the last 45, 50 years, because that wisdom of leadership is so packaged, so easy to understand. I have the challenge, and also I'm encouraged to be able to share that here in Germany, German-speaking Europe. Because in reality, everyone deserves to be led well. Another phrase from John Maxwell.
Sure.
I'm also very excited to be able to reach out to my English-speaking friends and customers in India, because I'll be doing some masterminds and webinars based upon different offers and different packages, different titles, different topics in the next couple of weeks. And naturally, all my projects in Germany, all the different customers I reach out with and different programs and projects, continue to close it out this year, because next year is going to be hopefully fully packed with bringing on more German speaking coaches and getting them multiplied, getting them trained up, because I'd like to, at some stage, to have a German-speaking John Maxwell platform, and I think I
Right.
need to lay the ground for that and
Sure.
start sowing the seeds, I think it's called.
All right.
That's basically my own vision for the next couple of years is to, I have a greenfield chance here in Germany. There are very few German books from John Maxwell. We have a challenge with the translation.
Yeah.
There are German coaches that are certified. I'd like to connect with them and coordinate and see how I can serve them. And that's going to be happening in the next 6 to 12 months. And that's my course at the moment, the next
Nice.
6 to 18 months.
Exciting. So a closing question that we ask all our guests is like, what does leadership today means to you?
Leadership means to me caring enough for my employees to develop them to eventually make myself obsolete.
Wow, that's so good. Yeah,
I mean,
enough for your people, develop them, so you can actually do something else.
exactly. I make them my mission, basically, even my Facebook, on my LinkedIn. My mission is eventually make myself obsolete in every position. I'm always looking for that one person, or maybe two, depending on how big the department is, who I can develop, who I can serve, and assist them. They can develop themselves with or without my help. It's usually a combination that they can take over my positions. I can move on, because if I'm not multiplying myself, I'm not staying true to my own principles. So always trying to make myself obsolete, which is very hard to hear sometimes for a lot of German managers. A lot of managers have to be German.
Yeah,
I can't make myself obsolete. I got to keep my job.
Of course, I need to hold on to this position. Like, why would I want to do that? Yeah. Well, thank you so much, James, for making the time to be on the show. It's been wonderful. I hope you also enjoy it.
I loved it. I enjoyed it. It's a challenge in English, but I hope I did well. And it was great to be on. Thank you for the invite, and looking forward to see how we can connect and how we can serve each other in the future as well.
Absolutely, will be my pleasure. And so, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll be back to you in 2 weeks' time with another guest. And until then, take care, be safe, and see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.